Guys, we're doing this right? Like we're doing everything fucking right? So come on, people, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share with friends and family, give us some love, people. Welcome to the Three Body Narrative. We are your podcast hosts, Pradyum, Aaron, and Naeem, and we are here to discuss everything pop culture from TV shows, movies, and games. And for today's episode, we're going to be reviewing A House of Dynamite. So, what is the movie all about? Well, when a single anonymous missile is launched towards the United States, a high stakes race begins to figure out who is behind it and how to respond before catastrophe strikes. So let's start with our ratings for this movie. And I don't know what that was, but who wants to take...
Every time I try to make these, when you kind of put those symbols on, it kind of does this thing. And I try and replicate that, but it never goes off when you want it to go off. And then you don't want it to go off and it kind of goes off. So it's kind of weird.
So what you're trying to say is that nothing goes according to plan. And that's exactly this movie, right? So who wants to take it away with their review? Or who wants to go first?
Aaron! Go ahead.
Who recommended this movie again?
It was a poll, and then we decided. That's why Naeem made sure that we had to choose, and he wasn't going to recommend it.
So you know who suggested it. All I'm saying. But yeah,
we needed some action, so I came up with possibilities, and you guys chose and so technically you guys are like the president. So I'm the guy devising the potential
strategies
or options we've got, and you guys get blamed for those at the end of the day.
Wow. Sure. Okay, so Aaron, what do you make of it?
This was an odd one for me. I mean, when you looked at the cast, you kind of thought, okay, this is something that, would be an interesting or a good watch. Some parts of it were nice. I liked how the movie showed different perspectives. I liked how they explain, how they kind of clued people in on what some of the abbreviations that were used through the graphics and stuff on the screen. That was something that was interesting. You wouldn't have thought this type of movie would do something like that. So that was pretty neat. Overall, though, I think the movie, though it had some decent bits, I don't think it was the greatest of movies. I think I would probably give it a 2.5 just for, I think the way suspense was built through the stages of the movie were quite nice. I think it also kind of puts things into perspective of how, things work in the background, kind of explain sometimes like why certain decisions are made and, the kind of catch-22 situations that these kind of high-ranking officials, whatever positions or whatever you want to call them, the type of decisions that they have to make. Sometimes it's not with all the information at hand, and so sometimes some slack kind of has to be given to them. And so, yeah, I think in some sort of informative way, it was quite nice. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there was a whole lot going for the movie.
Fair. I echo your sentiments. I would give it... I'm actually torn because this movie, for me, had all of the right pieces in place to deliver a really good movie. I was let down by how it ended. And for that, I think I would give it a 2.5 as well. I was torn between a 3 or 2.5, but I'd give it a 2.5. it surprised me. I didn't know this was a Catherine Bigelow movie. So this is someone who's directed movies like Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. So I guess it's also following in a similar theme, right? Because Zero Dark 30 was also sort of not, it's a political thriller. You have Hurt Locker, which is more a war movie of sorts. And so here it's on the similar lines or on the same lines. But you're right. Given the star cast, given everything that was there, I felt a bit let down at times, and especially towards the end. But that being said, I loved how the suspense was built, and I was actually very intrigued as to how they were going to do it, because within the first 20 minutes, it felt like the movie was just going to end with like, oh, damn, that's it. I thought, okay, they were going to make other attempts to sort of rescue this, or it was going to turn out to be a false sort of missile. Like it was false danger or false alarm. So that's what I thought it was going to go. But of course, they went the route of showing it from different perspectives, which is not something that is it's not new, but it's something that I haven't seen in a while. I think this this movie of giving different perspectives kind of reminded me of this old movie called Vantage Point. If you guys have watched it, it's this uh, Dennis Quaid old one. It's like a murder mystery, terrorism murder mystery sort of movie where they have different perspectives. So that's the kind of feel I got from it. Acting wise, I thought they were all fine, but again, it didn't give them too much to really do. I think the one character who actually had a lot to do, or rather two of them. One was Olivia at the start, and then there's Barrington, who actually had a lot more screen time. I think from a president's point of view, from the secretary of defense point of view, even though they're good actors, they didn't have too much of time on screen to really make a presence felt. And with that being said, yeah, I think while I was very engrossed for, I would say, 75% of the movie, the last 25, knowing that there was not much time left in the movie, I was like, how is this going to end? And well, we'll come to how it did later on. But yeah, that's my take on it. It was a movie with a lot of promise, but at the end of the day, it felt a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, so I feel exactly the same as you guys do, and I would give
how,
this
how often has this ever happened? In the
5
past, I don't think it's ever happened.
as well, and it's quite to the point. Like it's it just gives me the feeling of, like you said, having all the right pieces at the right place, and all you gotta do is just like stick the landing, right? And they don't land. And that
Yeah.
was irritating, right, to say the least. And um it's again, like it's difficult to explain how you kind of feel, because there's one part of me that likes the open-ended end that we have to this movie, where a lot is just left to your imagination, or perhaps like how you want it to end, of sorts. And the other bit is like, I would have liked to see the director or the storyteller's version of how this kind of ends, right? And to that point itself, like the first 20 minutes, the way the pacing moves. By the way, the pacing of this was so damn good, because I
Yeah.
really loved how it had me gripped right until the last sequence of where the president's like the perspective of the president's end becomes the focus, because then it was the same thing, like we don't have too much time left, so what are we going to see from here on in? And does this mean that there are going to be more parts to follow and things like that? Like there are a lot of things that happen in this movie that kind of warrant an end that never comes, basically. But to that point, like even like when this movie starts off, right, like and you hear, like, it's a black screen and you hear the music, and I'm already gripped. Like that music is like, I really love the background music in this. You can feel the tense situation that's building up. And I loved all of that, like the way they've done it. I can't fault the performances, really. Like, to everyone who was on the screen, they did a really good job. Whether that was Rebecca Ferguson or Idris Elba as the president as well in the short time span that he had. Everyone did play their job. Play their role really well. Is just um, the choice they made in terms of where they want, like how they want to end this movie or what they're trying to tell. From that perspective, that I think they're just trying to make us self-aware. Like I don't know. We'll discuss that further as we kind of
Yeah,
move on. 2.5 out of 5 is what I would rate this movie at, is because again, it's just um, it made me feel like Game of Thrones in the sense that okay, the Game of Thrones gives you an end, but it's not the end
yeah,
they set you thought they were setting up. It's like they set all the characters up for something,
yeah,
and then just to throw you off, they're like, "Fuck you, we're not gonna do anything at all. Like nothing. That's
yeah.
it. This is all you get." And that was really, really disappointing. From I think every person that watches this would leave feeling that way, most likely. I mean, not every, but most people
Wow,
that
look
watch.
at you telling how viewers should react to it. Wow. All
Most
right.
people.
No, but I agree, and I guess now that we're done with our rating, there are a few points that we need to discuss. And first, let's discuss about that open end, right? We do see that people are moving towards bunkers, which kind of does hint at the fact that there's nothing that they can do with in terms of the missile hitting Chicago and the United States, right? So we clearly see that there has been a plan. So I feel like, given that there are bunkers available, that like there was a measure in place, because you see buses going into those sort of safe bunkers. But I think one thing that we didn't see is what the president's decision was in terms of, are they going to attack the other nations? Are they going to sit back and just allow Chicago to become an apocalyptic piece of land? Or, what the bombers were going to do? And I felt like, did they have enough opportunity after the first, was it GBI?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the first GBI failed, could they have sent a couple of others? Because that's what, in that control room of sorts, the guy asked, right? Should we send another one? And the guy just walks out into grieving outside, right? He walks out
GBI
of
But
his.
was like a
I
plant-based.
think, but somebody mentions, right, that they only have 50, and so if they use more on this, then if this is genuinely an attack, then they will be short-handed for the remaining
Yeah, but
attack.
also I
So
think the point that Raddy is referring to, like at that point, it's kind of entered into the atmosphere. So even if you were to launch an interceptor, I think it would have still done quite a bit of damage. So I think it's too late from that perspective to take that call of launching another one to follow it up. I think that's why he kind of really just walks out. I think that's my perspective
Yeah, I
on it.
mean, also you're in shock, right? Because you're expecting that to have worked, and then, but also the other thing is, I think they played it very safe in not naming who was behind the attack, and that,
Yeah,
I feel like, is got to have proper real life political repercussions, right? I think, for instance, in Bollywood, we are very happy to name who our enemies are in Bollywood movies, right? Here, I just feel like they put out a lot of names, but they always said that, no, when they were talking to those countries, they came back with the confirmation saying it wasn't them, right? I think there was only one country which was
yeah.
not completely, uh, you know, cleaned, or what was it, confirmed to have not been a part of it. And I think, yeah, there was definitely, I feel like, uh, a real life situation or a real life angle to that decision to not name who was behind it. But at the end of the day, it did feel a bit like, why? I mean, that you were mentioning that this was happening. These people have so many arsenal or missiles, and this person has this nuclear arsenal, but there was no sort of conclusion whatsoever. And I felt that was a bit.
but
Just fine.
don't you think that that is also kind of a reality where technically, as much kind of information that you get through your spies and stuff like that, how much do you really know about the abilities of your perceived uh, threats, or if you want to call them enemies, then enemies, but how much do you actually know? Because obviously, like most army or military, this thing, you have a lot of top secret stuff that is in development and stuff, which you never know. Like, do you know what they're developing? Do you know what they have? I don't think, as much as you want to say intel you gather, I don't think anyone ever knows what their true capabilities are till they actually reveal them, I guess.
Fair. Okay, I get that. It's just that, I mean, this was a movie, so I kind of expected resolution. Like
Yeah.
I said, there have been other movies where it's been quite clear as to who the villains are. In
Yeah.
this case, yeah, but I agree. I think in such a situation, nobody's gonna give up their hand and then come on TV like, ha ha ha. So, Mr. President, you got me at last. Like
That
that.
that's what this movie needed, right? Yeah.
um,
So
yeah, go
I
ahead.
guess from that perspective, only like sticking to that, I think I also like the fact that it's not just people that can fail you, but like, sorry, I mean, it's not just technology that can fail you, but also people, kind of a thing. But in the sense that obviously the tech is not able to gauge where it
Hmm.
originated from, which is the failure on the tech's part. But the human failure comes from the perspective of what.
I don't. They were kind of hinting at that the technology of the whoever had launched the missile was able to go under the radar. I don't think it was
Yeah,
that the
so
satellite
twofold, right?
failed
No,
at it.
but there are two folds to that. They're saying that one, it could have failed in itself, like they're not really sure. The second is that maybe the opponents do have or have found a way to kind of
Yeah,
fire
so that's what
what they.
Anna says when she talks, right? When she's on the phone.
She
Which, by the way,
mentioned a couple
I
of,
love the fact that she's got the balls to say that I'm on a holiday when she's talking to the president. Like, I'm on leave, you
no,
can't
but I
disturb
think
me.
until that
I
point, the
think that was when she was talking to Barrington.
parenting,
I think
yeah,
then later he's like, "This is the president," and they're like, "Oh shit."
yeah, she
Oh,
has
okay. Because
parenting her
I thought the first conversation when she picks up the phone is, uh,
Barrington.
oh, I thought the president says, "You're the expert here" or something. I thought
Oh
was
yeah,
that
yeah,
not?
yeah. Actually, yeah. That's the first bit of it.
But she
But
doesn't know that it's the president until, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
But
think there is that thing of maybe like it's a prank call between like
yeah,
like
fair. But whatever said and done, I mean, to say that like is hilarious. Given what we know as the audience, given what we know, it's pretty hilarious. But even that, I think also, uh, it's not our mentality to be like, "Hey, I'm on vacation. Do not disturb me." For us, it's like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." That's a whole conversation. Otherwise, no. But you're right. So I think there is a hint that there is a way that they bypass the technology. But yeah, I mean, technology also failed in terms of the rockets that were sent to, uh, well,
Intercept.
intercept.
destroy, intercept
Yeah, yeah.
the other
So
missiles.
obviously that's there, and also in terms of like the human failure in the sense that I think again, like to this point, it was more of obviously there's the human nature involved in this, right? And I all I could think of was this movie called Sully, where Tom Hanks is the pilot, and this whole situation that they've been trained for happens, and as a human, he takes a moment to kind of recollect his composure and stuff like that, and then make the decisions, which then implicates has like implications on the final um, 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 result of that event, right? Which is not taken into account when the whole review of the events is happening and stuff until like someone points it out, kind of thing. So coming back to that thing in itself, like I feel like the time that's taken to get to a point where they're all um, again, like, you can only have so much composure in such an event ever of this kind of a potential catastrophe awaiting to happen, kind of a thing. And without wavering too much onto that front, I suppose it's like there has to be a better way to deal with these kind of things, and like it needs to be written down as opposed to left to people to kind of um pick and choose.
I get, but how much can you actually predict? Then for every situation that is to happen, you're like, shit, I wish somebody had written about this. I wish somebody had written about. You don't know what could happen and
And
what. So yeah,
imagine trying to find what was written down if you have everything written down.
Yeah.
You're like, which page was it? Which page was it? Like, so section one, section two.
We've
And
got AI now, FYI, by the way. So
Yeah,
like,
I know.
yeah, don't go this,
ChatGPT.
you like search me what is the search for me what the uh potential strategy is when this has happened, kind of a thing. And
It's
then
like use
the only,
Yeah.
ChatGPT. You use
yeah,
ChatGPT to write. Yeah.
but coming to that front also, in the sense that uh they're all talking about possibilities, and one of them is the fact that and I like, I mean, again, like, we are just like, at this point in time, they're trying to, I guess, avoid a potential war from taking place as a result of this, and they are giving out scenarios where this could have been a mistake. And the lady says that China, I mean, without naming countries,
You
they
A
named
have,
little
it. It's
too
fine.
late. A little too late.
like, chop that out. But okay, like, one of the
No, that's
countries
fine.
been like trying out with the AI systems as well, and it could have very well been a mistake in terms of, what's transpired and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot happening in the background, and like, with all of that in play, I feel like it's scary to think that there is no real action for the mass of Chicago that's there. Like, it's very selective in terms of who's being moved.
Moved.
Uh,
Yeah. And that's always the case in any major disaster film, right? Like 2012 or Day After Tomorrow. It's always been like the rich and the elite and the powerful who are saved, who get those options to kind of find the safety bunkers and whatever it is that.
Also, just one question, okay? Because I didn't see this being covered in the movie. I don't know if I'm not sure if I missed it. So there's no real televised news angle that's happening. So we don't know what really. I mean, I couldn't figure out what is being communicated or relayed to the
So the only
masses.
thing that I can think is that could happen, and it's not, right? You see everyone on their phones telling their loved ones to get out, and they don't have a clue as to what is happening. Even the daughter of the Secretary of Defense does not know what's happening. But the only thing that I can think that would happen, again, they leave it to your imagination, is that they get an alert, right? Everyone gets those nationwide emergency alerts. That's what the FEMA got as well. The FEMA woman got. Uh,
But it was
that
only
was
only she who got it, right?
yeah, and maybe it's because of her role, like you said, right? There are only certain people who get that sort of information, and that was also early on, just before they even sent the GB1. So at the end, yeah, it's just that I, I wanted to know what is the right. I mean, what is the decision that they would have come up with, and I think this is a good time to get your endings to the movie. So if you were to script the ending to this movie, how would you have played it out? Just a quick thing. How would you have? Because
I don't
clearly,
know.
I think
Yeah,
they've left it at a point
obviously,
where
see, if I'm doing this movie, and because I love the look and feel of it and stuff, it's not going to be a single movie for me. Okay, it's going to be like a 3-part trilogy. It's happening, kind of a thing. And I'm going to use one of the things that they kind of um, placed in the movie in itself, where I think Barrington mentions that there are times where the warheads don't um, blow up.
Detonate.
They don't
yeah,
detonate, right? And I go that way, hopefully. Like, there is no way to avoid this. It does hit Chicago, but it doesn't detonate. And that's where the next sequence of events begin, in the sense of, one, identifying who,
who?
second, deciding on the response, and third the final implication of what that response is going to be like, and that's what I would like make the second and third movies about.
So what would be your response?
Because that's what they left the movie on, which is what is the
Yeah.
president's response? Whether you just
So again,
let
like
it go as
again, to that point, I would again, like me being the person or the kind of person I am, I would wait because I feel like if I make that it's not really the first move anymore, but if I make that reaction now before I have all the facts in place, the problem with that is it sets off a chain reaction like the one that is envisioned in
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, that whole
Yeah,
sequence.
I felt the same. It's like if you were to, because you don't know, you don't know whether it's genuine, and B, you don't want to start a war, because if you were to send, then if you were to react, then it starts a chain reaction, ignites the atmosphere, blah blah blah, all of that stuff, right? But uh, even so, I still, okay, Aaron, how would you end this movie? How would you have ended? Is there any hope for Chicago, or is that just we consider Chicago gone?
I think the only hope was that the missile doesn't detonate, right? At this point, there was no question of intercepting it or kind of doing anything about it. So impact was, I
Imminent.
think, a guarantee. It's just a matter of whether it was going to detonate and then the amount of casualties. So that I don't think was going to change. The only thing would be was how the USA as a nation would then react to it, and then uh, I think at the where the movie ended, they still didn't know who was the culprit or who was responsible for the attack, and so yeah, uh, it was like even if they were going to uh, come up with a response, you don't even know whether you would be attacking the right person, and so then there was a possibility of you making another enemy you would kind of provoke another attack from someone else. So yeah, it was an interesting one that.
I definitely do not envy the president, because it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because say he does it, it's global World War III, and if he does, and if he doesn't do anything, then his own people turn on him, right? How can you let Chicago, one of your major cities, get attacked without having any plan whatsoever? And even if people don't know exactly, like you're right in showing, in this shows or gives us a glimpse as to how things are inside, you know the political atmosphere, how things are very very uh, you know tense, very difficult to maneuver. There's no right plan, but at the same time, people outside don't know about it. For them, they've lost lives, they've lost family, they've lost everything, and so it's not a desirable position to be in. And probably, maybe, I don't know, if your theory pans out right, that the missile does not detonate. Oh man, poor Secretary of Defense. The guy just jumps off the building.
Mm,
Yeah, which
yeah, I
also I'm
thought
not
of
sure.
that as well.
Yeah, which I don't know, because his daughter's in Chicago. At least you'd want to, like, I mean, you jumping off the building does no favors to anybody, because if it doesn't hit, right, or if it doesn't detonate, the girl's lost her father, right? And if it does hit, well, I mean,
They'll be reunited.
yeah, in a way, yeah, is that what they plan to? Is like she's probably gonna be pissed off in heaven or hell, wherever they are. Like, you didn't
Mm,
tell me about this. You should have told me. So it
Doesn't
felt a
it?
weird, odd decision to be.
If it
I
doesn't hit,
mean,
WLF, I suppose, or
mm,
Fedra.
Yeah, that's a
mm,
different, entirely
yeah,
different TV show or franchise altogether. But it felt like I didn't understand. So I obviously knew something had gone wrong when you hear the conversation, which was nice to hear, because
yeah.
in the Zoom recording, you're like, no, no, sir. And then I thought he shot himself. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it was just
almost sounded like there was gunfire or something. So
Yeah.
that was kind of odd. But I guess also they kind of tried to give some sort of backstory where they were showing that they had a strained relationship and whatever. So yeah,
yeah.
I don't
But
know.
I mean, strange. He just wanted to go be with his wife. I'm guessing the mom's no longer there. So whatever said and done, it just felt a weird decision to be made because it genuinely does not help anybody in the slightest. And I don't know whether it was his failing which pushed him over the edge or what it was. So I just felt that decision to be a bit off. But yeah, I guess that's the easy way out
Mm.
rather than face the judgments of people, right? Just woo, jump off the building.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people have their reasons to do why they do stuff. It doesn't have to be rational, but yeah. Uh,
Yeah, of course it doesn't.
At
But
that point, though, it is not about all of that. I think it is more personal than
yeah,
anything.
I think it was a more emotional this thing. I think like again we're just speculating because it's not part of the story, but like how the daughter is now seeing someone and he only finds out through this phone call, and he's trying to kind of put across to her to kind of leave town because of this thing, and she was very disinterested in the conversation and stuff like that. So
it's like
probably
screw her.
yeah, so probably a whole multitude of emotions that he was going through. So yeah, but yeah,
But the
uh,
bodyguards are getting fired. Like you don't let a aging old man just walk to the edge of the building and collapse. Like you sprint and tackle the guy if he's not got into the helicopter. The moment he passes by the helicopter, you're like, grab him by the collar and say, no, push
yeah,
him.
but I mean, who expects him? Because it's not like he's kind of sprint and jumped off the building. He just like how you kind of do the 1 foot and drop into a pool or into the ocean. Like when you do scuba diving, you just take the one step off the edge of the boat and like
Yeah,
into the ocean. That's what he did. And you could have thought like maybe he wanted to take in like one last view
one last,
before he
yeah.
gets into the helicopter or something, and then next thing you know he's like
He,
scrambled
he
eggs on the
definitely
floor.
took one
So
last view. That was
yeah,
definitely his one last view because no more views after that. Oh God, if
yeah.
he survived that, that would have been interesting. All right, so now that we've spoken about so what the entire goal of this movie, I suppose, considering that we didn't get an ending, was to what make aware of how
Self
shit
aware.
if shit hits the fan, things could really go haywire, and
I
that
think
we're not
also
prepared.
the complexities of you know uh relationships with all these countries and stuff like this. One is like when these things happen, you even though you get an answer like from your supposed threats or possible enemies, no one's going to openly admit blame or take responsibility saying yes we were the ones who attacked, right? That was one. So I think it kind of is trying to give you the view that there is a lot of gray area which these type of officials and politicians kind of have to work in with not all the information at hand, and sometimes it's judgment calls, and they kind of accept the fact that their judgment calls are not always going to be right, and that you can't always appease the public, and you can't always make decisions based on how you are going to be perceived. Like in this particular instance, even if it was a country that launched this by mistake, uh, are you going to be able to convince family members that lost loved ones in Chicago saying, oh, it was a mistake and so we are not going to hold them accountable or we're not going to retaliate? You'll
Yeah.
have so many people saying, like, we want repercussions, blah, blah, blah. But like, sometimes it's not always an eye for an eye that works. It can't be, oh, you sent a missile by mistake, so we are going to send one now. It
Whoops.
doesn't work. Yeah, it
What does
doesn't work.
this red button do?
Yeah. So I think that was what they were trying to kind of show, and also the human aspect of it. Like sometimes decisions are made based on emotion, or sometimes oversight happens because, these are people themselves who have families themselves. And so in these type of situations, sometimes as much as your job requires you to put your job first, you kind of look at family and do all those kind of things. And so sometimes, yeah, you're not always in the right headspace to make these decisions.
That's a good segue to what I wanted to actually also bring up, which was we're seeing this high tension atmosphere being built across all different parties and different rooms. But the one thing that we also see is that the moment they know that there's no hope, it's like they break protocol, bring their phones in, start talking to family, and you're kind of like, huh. I mean, and it's also funny that only the higher ups do it, and they do it slyly because you can't have everybody panicking and everybody calling up people, because then that just sends. But I guess it's a way to kind of just show or highlight that yeah, there is a personal side to these,
Yeah.
stories, and I don't know where Rebecca Ferguson's like family is, or I don't know how far DC is from Chicago. Uh,
Mm.
but I didn't see the need to kind of have them move. I don't know, unless they feel like that's the first one, and then that kind of has radiation spread across, because it was Chicago and Columbus, I think, which have the
Yeah.
Yeah,
highest.
no, Indianapolis, is that where it
Mm.
was? Like, I think Chicago, which is, if I'm not wrong, in Illinois.
Illinois, yeah, Illinois, not Illinois, Illinois, yeah. Why did I say that? Yeah, yes,
Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois.
Thanks for supporting me with that. Yeah,
It
Illinois.
is, it is, yeah.
I think it's more on the east, if I'm not wrong, and
What,
Washington's.
Washington D.C. is on the east, yeah, East Coast, right? Washington
I think
D.C.
they're on
is.
the opposite sides or
No,
something.
Chicago Central. Chicago is Chicago, Indianapolis, whatever,
Yeah,
Michigan or whatever. So
I
it's
think
on that
central, but
top
towards like
central. Top central, but little more
no,
towards the eastern side than it is towards west.
more to the eastern for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is
So I
almost,
mean, it's completely east. I think it's eastern coast, right? Washington
I think
D.C.
so.
Yeah.
Washington is not the one at the moment.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I just think they're thinking on the lines that if this is an attack, then Washington would be another likely target that would be struck next. And which is why I think she tells them to just head in the west direction, and she doesn't really give them a
That's
place to
towards.
go per se.
Yeah, but that's
But I don't know.
towards danger. Anyway,
Uh,
that being said, it's weird that you think, like you said, I think a proper attack maybe should have been a bigger city. So are you now leaning towards Chicago maybe being a mistake, or were they targeting DC and it flat and the inclination flatlined more and started to head towards Chicago?
yeah,
So I mean, there are a lot of questions
get
that
to
one
the end
can be.
of this.
Yeah, you can just go on that way, but it was interesting to see. I think there were a lot of personal angles as well to this story, which was brought about, whether it be from the Secretary of Defense, whether it be. I loved the president trying to get his wife on the line, and when she's all the way in, I think,
Kenya.
Africa, Kenya,
mm,
yeah, enjoying a safari and not able to get a word in because of the connection. And she's
yeah.
just going to be like, why is my husband trying to bother me on my safari break? And she returns back to basically, what is it called? Like a entire landfill, or like completely post
That's
apocalyptic USA. So,
great. Um, yeah, so the personal aspect of it is very interesting to watch. Obviously, like with like Aaron mentioned, right? Like it's this duality of having to be professional in such a high stake job, but also the human nature is always there. It's hard to shut it out,
yeah, make no
especially
mistake, we'd all be scrambling for our phones if something was like
when,
something like
yeah,
this was to happen.
and and like the kind of stress they're in, and even with all of that, like even if it's not down to just your this thing, which is like a personal dilemma for the president himself, right? Like at this point in time, there are no direct implications to him or his family, but the thought is of what this means for his legacy, obviously, because he becomes that man who either took action and that resulted to the end of the world, or someone who got slapped and then just decided to keep quiet, kind of a thing, right? Like not
Yeah.
upward. So either way, like how all of that kind of works out, all of those angles were very interesting to watch.
So even like I think the shock of how they are not safe anymore. So they thought like 50 billion investment in all their defense and stuff, and now it's just down to a coin toss of if if it works or if it doesn't. I think that kind of sends shockwaves down the entire system, kind of thing. I think also the imminent threat, because you hear them say like you've seen multiple armies being mobilized, which again it could have been due to self-preservation because the US was being attacked and so they thought they would be next, or it could be that they are now looking to take advantage, seeing that the US is vulnerable to these kind of missile attacks. So yeah, it kind of has you worried on multiple fronts. One is your personal stuff, then being professional and trying to come up with a solution while also trying to figure out who is doing what. Can people's word be taken for what it is, and can they be trusted? Because I think Barrington had a call with the Russian foreign minister or something like that, where he says it's not us, and I've spoken to China, and he thinks it's not them, while you yourself couldn't get in touch with China, so you can't really make a
Yeah,
judgment
you're
call on
relying
that.
on other people's
Yeah. So, yeah,
statements.
with so much misinformation, or rather, I think lack of information to make judgment calls or to take such immense decisions with such big consequences, kind of really weighs you down, I guess.
Fair. Okay. So, do we have anything else that we want to discuss? I think pretty much we've discussed how the open ending worked for us or didn't work for us, the goal of the movie, the decisions
Uh,
and the ending, possible endings or outcomes, and then the personal side. Anything else that we're kind of missing on this?
no, I think like it was a
I,
okay-ish movie, probably.
yeah, there's not much to really dig deep into, right? And
Yeah,
also I think you're right in the fact that I like the fact that they explained what those jargons are, because they were throwing jargons left, right, and center, right?
yeah,
At some point I was like, what the hell does this mean? But then later on they kind of like explained what each room went, what the you know, the jargons were or the technical terms were. So that was a good thing, because you could have just thrown all of these and be like, what's Stratcom, what's POC, what's all this random shit that they start throwing out. So that way it was, I think direction wise it was also nice. I like the fact that they built the tension, they kept the tension continuous throughout, because the one thing that it could have faltered is, see, the way they cut or edited the movie was that we already knew that there was probably no hope for Chicago, right? And so you're kind of then showing the viewpoint from other people, where we eventually know what the outcome is. What we're actually seeing is just how did they arrive at that point. And that could have been a bit like, shit man, I know what's going to happen, just show me the damn ending, like what's the resolution. But I think they kept that tension up, and they kept, I mean, the acting was good enough to keep me engaged and keep me like thinking, okay,
yeah,
are you adding a little more here, are you adding some
Yeah,
elements which weren't there earlier on? And
yeah,
that's what they did, and that's a good thing that
yeah.
they could have maybe.
They
Yeah,
weren't repetitive by being repetitive, basically, which was pretty cool.
yeah, I mean, they
that
could
was
have
nice.
maybe left it at a more bigger cliffhanger, which is as the GB1 was going, and then we didn't know at that point, and then we saw different angles. But I like the fact that they basically took us to the end, and then but showed us the different angles. Is just that it wasn't the same thing again and again. Like, oh, it's again this.
I actually thought like maybe the way it's going, like once the first two perceptions are done and you kind of move to the president, I thought maybe this is where they kind of show if he pushes that button. I mean, does he call that order or not? Is that like that's what they kind of end with? But they chose not to do that either. Which now I don't know if she would be open to doing a sequel for this movie or if it even warrants one. But for the kind of the thrill it built up and the kind of
You want that.
yeah, you would think like maybe they kind of make another one and just like answer all the questions they have. Like it
Yeah,
did land.
or it
They did
yeah, maybe making that decision wasn't really a call that she wanted to take. Essentially,
yeah.
she didn't want the president to be shown as either the bad person or the good person. Like I said, there was no easy side to take there, and so maybe she was just like, screw it, just end it here. People can decide whether the presidents are going to make that call or not. But
I'd
we
be
don't
interested
know.
to
I mean, this is Netflix, so you never know if it makes enough money. There will be a
there
House
could
of
be.
Dynamite. Yeah, a second House of Dynamite. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I guess that's all the time that we have for our review of this particular movie. Like I mentioned at the start of this podcast episode, please do hit the like button, share with friends and family, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us even on Instagram and on Facebook. And we'll catch you all on our next episode. Until then, see you.